Imagine you find yourself in a studio, face to face with an interviewer, and you know for the next 7.2831596 minutes, you get to talk about your book and share your expertise. By show of hands, who might be slightly nervous about that? Wonderful, I appreciate the honesty. But your level of nervousness might decrease when you realize you have the ability to deliver what I call unforgettable presentations. Now, you might be tempted to think, okay, here's this guy gonna sell his book to me right now. No, Henry already did that. But as authors, one of our responsibilities is to deliver unforgettable presentations. However, I just offered you a different idea. I talked about an interview in studio. By show of hands, who've had those interviews in studio before? My friend, thank you, many of you. My friend and co-author, Darren LaCroix, who's back here, Darren LaCroix, wave buddy, was in Vegas on an interview show for more than 7 minutes. The thing is, many of us don't realize our time in studio, our time at the book signing, our time at the small event within the community, or for the literary society, each of those are opportunities for us to deliver unforgettable presentations. My first thought is this: think not of a presentation as a time I'll stand on a stage and deliver a message. Conversations can be presentations. Interviews can be presentations. And the same way you structure your book with ideas, a theme, a flow, a destination, the same applies to those interviews and those small events and even those networking conversations when you share your ideas about your book. But let me take you back to where this thought originated, shall we? Let's go back a bit. The idea of the value of unforgettable presentations didn't hit me until I began working at Reader's Digest way back in the 1990s. I can vividly recall going for lunch, and on the main hallway back in those days, we had a notice board, a physical notice board with a glass cover, and they posted job opportunities. Show of hands, who can recall seeing those in their previous lifetime? Wonderful. After a while, I would look for different jobs because I didn't want to change my job. I was a computer programmer. I liked my job, but I would see CFO, Director of Finance. I'd see mailroom assistant. I'd see executive assistant, and different areas of responsibility. And I like to read. I'm a word nerd. And I began to read these job postings. And no matter what the job was, I found a common denominator. For every responsibility, it said, excellent verbal and written communication skills are required. In that voice, too. It spoke to me. And I realized then the power and value of being able to communicate well, but I didn't connect the idea of communicating and presentations being a part of everyday life until I joined Toastmasters International. You may not know about them, but if you do, it's a wonderful place to practice presentations. As a matter of fact, I joined the Reader's Digest Toastmasters Club, and I met members who came to our club specifically to master the art of delivering presentations when they went on their book tour. Who's been down that road before? It didn't occur to many of us that we are the ones who are selling our books, and our presentations are the best tool that we have to let the audience know what we have to offer. See, it's very easy for me to say, well, look, my book can sell itself. I've got the best book in the field on this topic. If you don't feel that way, build some confidence and amplify, where's Henry? See what I did there? And amplify your idea of what you have to offer. And here's why I say that in all seriousness. I can't recall the last time I went to a bookstore, a physical edifice, and looked through my particular area of expertise and saw how many volumes were on the shelf. If you've ever gone to a bookstore, a physical edifice, a building, looked at the genre in which you are in, look at your area of expertise, and checked how many volumes you saw, just say, hey, 2.5 people. Okay, let's make it easier. Go to Amazon.com. in your category and see where you rank among other books. Who's done that recently? I have. How many books are there in your area of expertise, do you think? 9 bajillion plus 3. I have absolutely, positively no idea how many there are. I do know that there are many, which then lends itself to this question. Why in the round world would anybody want to read my book, or why should they read my book when there are 9 bajillion plus 3 books of the same topic of area of expertise out there? That's a real question. What will prompt your readers and your audiences to choose your book over every other? Sometimes the difference is how you present what you have to offer. I submit to you that you need to stand up. I'll take that back. We need to stand up and stand out when we present about our material. Because let's face it, most books have some common material, but what's different about yours? What makes yours stand out? You have to amplify what makes you different. What makes you different is your experience. It's your expertise. It's your perspective that the audience needs to hear, to see, to embrace, and to understand. And very often I find myself thinking, wait a second, what can I say about what I do that's going to make the audience want to read my book, want to listen to me, want to hear from me? A thought occurred to me. When I do get thoughts, my wife gets nervous, but a thought occurred to me. We may have, in many ways, similar material, but only you can deliver your message from your heart with your experience in the way that you can. And here is a mistake I've seen speakers and presenters and sometimes authors make. We make every effort to show them how powerful our book is, how great our material is, how our material stands up against everybody else in the industry and in the area of expertise. And we give them all this information, how valuable it is. I did all this research and nobody knows what I know. And that's valid, that's fine. But a thought for you is this, from my heart. As much as your audience and your readers want to hear you, more so they want to know you. Your audience and your readers want to hear you, but they really want to know you. What do they want to know about you? They want to know why you. Why should I listen to you above everybody else? There are big names out there. There's Brian Tracy and Les Brown and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, all these great names. So why should I listen to you? May I offer an idea? Why? It's your story. It's your journey. It's your life. It's what you've been through that validates. It's why you need to share your perspective with them. Allow me to share an example for you. I'm attending Toastmasters conventions now for the last 25 years, I guess. I went to my first convention in the summer of 1994. This year, if my math is correct, is 23, to be 30 years. I've only missed 3 in the last 27 years. And a few years back, we had a keynote speaker who was an author. As an author, you want to get every opportunity to be a speaker because you can share about your book, but about your life. His name is Joel Manby. Is that name familiar to anyone? Maybe not. One, John, right? Is that you? I see you. I see you. Joel Manby was a senior executive for a company that did theme parks. His book is entitled Love Works. He was our keynote speaker at Toastmasters. I didn't walk, I didn't jog, I ran to get his book after I heard him speak. That book sits on a shelf in my family room. I can tell exactly where it is, and my wife and I both read it. Why? Because he shared his journey and his story about leadership and how leading with love can make a difference to any organization. I don't have an answer for this question. Maybe someone that does. Do you have any idea how many books exist right now just in North America on the theme of leadership? Right? I could name names. John Maxwell. Yeah, he's great. You could know all, but you didn't know who Joel Manby was. But I heard him speak. And when he spoke and shared his life and shared his journey and shared his story, it resonated with me and my wife. My beautiful Andrea insisted we get the book. That was years ago, and I was in that book a few months ago myself to review what he had to say. Why? Because while the content was important, what drew me was his journey, his story, his life experience. He even appeared on the television show Undercover Boss several years ago. Joel Manby, Joelmanby. Check it out. The impact of one presentation on a professional speaker prompted me to go out the door, run to the back, wait in line for half an hour to get a signed book. Wouldn't that be everyone's dream? For people to run out the door, I want to get that book. I would hope so. But how can we get our audiences, our listeners, and our readers to want the book? Again, one, share your story. We often tend, when I say we, people I work with, and I'm a speaking coach as well, we often tend to be heavy on the content we have, on the data that we have, the information that they need, and we forget the emotional side. And when Joel told his story, I said, I've got to find out what principles this man applies based upon the life he has lived. So let me ask you this. Have you examined the power of your life? Or maybe you've thought, my life isn't that important, but the information I have is. I submit to you, juxtapose both, infuse both, because then you will advance from delivering a presentation to following one of my mantras, which is this: stop giving speeches. Start delivering experiences. Ooh, I like that one. Ooh. Stop giving speeches. Start delivering experiences. Here's why. Anyone can take your book's content and deliver it. I have seen speakers come on stage and deliver eloquent speeches with poise, with posture, with great diction and a wonderful voice. And I walked away saying anyone who had that knowledge could have replaced them because I learned nothing about them. And when in your presentations, you can offer the why behind what you do, that's the emotional connection to draw the audience. Yes, if they've been through that, they had the experience, I want to hear what they have learned and how their technique, how their experience has served them. Don't give the speech, give the experience. Talk about the background behind the information and why it was worthwhile to you. And when you present to be unforgettable, allow the audience to understand the value that you have for them. Because your story is about you, but it's for them. Your story is about you, but it's for them. And that's why in my coaching, and my friend and partner Darren LaCroix back here, who you'll hear later on, when we coach speakers all over the world. And one of our mantras is, always use as much you-focused language as possible. The temptation is great to share the I. I learned, I found, I discovered, I applied, I did, I achieved, I accomplished. Nothing wrong with that. But if the language is shifted to you can accomplish, you will realize, you will understand, you will embrace, you will apply, you will achieve, you will succeed. If the you-focused language is applied more closely, the audience then feels you are talking not only to them, but about them, even in your own story. I began by saying, imagine you are in a studio being interviewed by an interviewer. I use the word you in the first three words. And the thing is, many of us find ourselves presenting in a hybrid world or a virtual world. Isn't that fun? Yes or yes? The word you is even more powerful in a virtual setting. Here's why. Today I say you, I speak to 45 people, a collective you. In a virtual world, whenever you say you are talking to an individual behind a lens. They will receive what you say personally. You want to deliver an unforgettable presentation? Personalize it. Let the audience feel it's for them. Tell your story, share experience. Because when you share an experience, what you don't know is this. You never know there may be somebody in the audience with whom your particular story and your emotion resonates. And when the audience knows you connect emotionally, that'll give them a reason to come and run to your table. That was the case of Joel Manby. He got to me here. My mentor is David Brooks, one of my mentors. He's a 1990 world champion of public speaking. And he told us years ago, Darren and me and others, we all have the 6 common emotions. We may not share the same experiences, but we share the 6 common emotions. In my research, I found out Dr. Paul Ekman back in the 60s had discovered 6 basic emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and disgust. 6 basic emotions. You can go and search them online. You'll find several more, but the 6 foundational emotions were those: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust. And when your presentations contain one or more of these emotions, it's a connector to the audience. And while we may be really focused on giving the content, remember that the emotional connection is what draws our audience to us. I believe every author can deliver unforgettable presentations if we use youth-focused language, if we understand the power of stories that connect to the audience emotionally, and if we're willing to reveal a part of ourselves beyond the detail and the data to establish a relationship with our readers and our listeners. When we deliver unforgettable presentations, we amplify our impact and we begin to build relationships, which is why I say, stop giving speeches. Start delivering experiences. And from the platform, be as conversational and honest as you are. It's amazing. We want to be so good on stage, at times we become speaker man. We find the correct gesture to say, you can achieve every goal you set in your heart if you read my book. Let me see you downstairs. I'll see you afterwards. How you doing? Good to see you. I'm fine. Wait, who was that? Well, that was my speaker voice. The relationship that we build. And Henry mentioned earlier, he would like us to really establish relationships here. What we practice here, we apply out there. That can, and I believe, will make a difference in the impact we have on those whom we serve. I say again, I believe every presenter can deliver unforgettable presentations. In the same way that Joel Manby chose personal stories, and I want to invest a little time in going a little deeper on the value of the personal story. Many of us feel, well, I am technically very adept, but otherwise I live a fairly boring life and nothing exciting ever happens to me. Who will honestly admit, that's me? Anybody? Anyone? Bueller? No? Oh, never mind. Didn't land last night either, Darren. That Bueller joke didn't work last night either. I must be getting old. I don't know what it is. But we often think, I've got nothing sensational to share in my presentation. Your story need not be sensational. It just has to be sincere. Think back to a book you read recently where someone shared a personal story that was not sensational, but in some way it connected to your heart. It also was validly connected to the idea they're trying to share. We often try to find great sensational stories, but we find stories that connect to our theme, to our idea, to our principle. That's all we really need, a story that properly connects, that's real, that's human, that allows our reader to say, you know what, I read this, they went through that, I understand how they feel. Now, these techniques don't happen overnight, but we need to invest in the effort it takes to learn how to develop and deliver unforgettable presentations. We need to learn how to do a well-structured talk. But here's a cool thing. I would submit you already have an idea about good structure. How? Because you wrote a book with good structure in it. Your book is not haphazard, neither is the art of public speaking. The tools you need, the stories, techniques, you may not learn them overnight, and I'm pleased to say it's taken me almost 30 years to learn some of these techniques, but I get to use them every single day. And Darren LaCroix, Fripp, and I realized there are some simple techniques that apply to delivering unforgettable presentations, which is why we wrote the book. And Henry, thank you for the endorsement. We appreciate that. But we can learn those, you can learn those too. Am I saying get the book? Certainly. But more importantly, to advance from the idea of speech making to experience giving, the idea of delivering not just a good or a great, but an unforgettable presentation, I would submit it takes work. I don't believe anyone here wrote their book overnight. I know we certainly did. The research, the time, the rewrites, the editing, the editor told you that's awful writing. Don't do that. But nobody here ever goes through that, just people like me who are word nerds. We put that kind of work in to make our book excellent. I submit, to be effective as communicators, we put that work in on the platform as well. I would suggest be willing to invest in getting the coaching necessary to advance your skill. I had to do media training when I was going to appear on a morning news show. They gave me a 4-minute segment, and I was told, make sure to hit these 3 talking points, no matter where the interviewer leads you. Who's been down that road before? It's not, 2 hands, Henry, it's not enormously easy. But with training and practice, I became more adept at it. Similarly, for you to market your book, to be influential, to share your ideas well, it may be worth your while to invest the effort and time in getting someone to help you, to coach you, to guide you. Darren LaCroix and I, through his Stage Time University, provide that. It need not have to be, it doesn't have to be us. But if you want to be excellent, then do what is necessary. Invest in advancing yourself. Invest in the improvement. Invest in a coach. We will spend money on a great website, and marketing, but I don't want to pay that for a coach. The best athletes have coaches. The best players of sport have coaches. CEOs of major companies have coaches. They have business coaches. They have practice coaches in medicine. I had a client who was running for the highest office in the American Dental Association. He talked about his practice coach would guide him and teach him and share with him. He got a coach. It transformed his practice, and in the same way, if we look at the value of getting ourselves coached as well in every area of our lives, including business, including presenting, we are therefore amplifying our impact, what we can do, what we can accomplish. It is my firm belief that every presenter, every author can deliver unforgettable presentations with one particular goal in mind. Not just selling more books and getting a bigger bite of the market share, but going deeper. I believe every author can deliver unforgettable presentations that will amplify your impact, build stronger relationships, and give you the opportunity to influence, to inspire, yes, and to sell, but to provide the impact you want to, desire to, and you should leave not only on the world you are in right now, but thankfully the world is wide open now with the internet. How far-reaching could your influence be? I'll close with a question. How much are you willing to do? How much are you willing to invest? What steps will you begin to take today to stop giving speeches, start delivering experiences, and amplifying your impact on the world? The choice is yours.